Obama back in 2008 when he went Ohio by 5 points to supporting Mitt Romney. And it was based on a conversation, heart to heart, neighbor to neighbor, about the economy, about jobs, about the debt, about the future for their kids and grandkids. That's what you guys are doing every day. Thank you. You're doing the work, not for Mitt Romney, you're doing the work for our country. And it means a lot. Ohio could make the difference again. When you look at the polling nationally, unbelievably, it looks like we're in another one of these elections where if Virginia goes our way, Florida goes our way, Ohio could be the determining state again. 2 of the last 3 presidential elections, that's been true. But for Ohio, there would have been a different result. John Kerry loves to remind me when I see him on the floor of the Senate of that. He says, Portman, but for half the people who could fit in the horseshoe, he doesn't know it's called the horseshoe, but the Ohio State Stadium, I'd be president. I say, well, John, I'm glad we had a better grassroots effort than you did. So we're gonna do it again, and again, it's for all the right reasons. We've got 11 days to do it. If you haven't already early voted, I would recommend you do it, and the reason is that frees us up on election day to be able to help get other people to the polls. The Democrats are really focused on early voting. They were in 2008. We expected that. I will tell you, I've just gone over all the numbers again in the bus. Just talked to Scott Jennings, who's our campaign manager for Ohio, who's doing a terrific job. I think the Romney folks are really doing a good job. But we're doing better in Cleveland and in Cincinnati and Columbus and Toledo, where we have some of the numbers from the absentees and from the early voting. We're doing better than we expected we would, and we're exceeding our targets. But ultimately, this is going to come down again to the next 11 days, convincing folks who haven't decided yet, and there are more people out there who haven't decided than the pollsters tell us. There's a poll out last week that says only 3% of Ohioans are undecided. That's not true. I can tell you that because I think I've met 3% of Ohioans who are undecided. And you know that's not true. I mean, there are a lot of your neighbors and friends, folks you go to work with, someone you might go to school with, or for those of you who are students, or you go to church with or synagogue with, who are, sort of leaning toward President Obama, but they're still persuadable. Yeah. And I know you all got ideas of what the message is, and you probably got a better message for those individuals because you know them, you know what's in their heart than I do. But I will tell you, speaking as a citizen, as a father, and as a husband, I am really worried about the direction of our country. I think we're at one of those moments where we can make a turn to get back to what's made America the strongest economy in the face of the earth, the hope and opportunity for the rest of the world, this bastion of economic opportunity and liberty and freedom, or we can turn to a country where we look a lot more like Greece, where more and more people are depending on government, and where this debt and deficit becomes so large that it diminishes our opportunities for our kids and our grandkids, and the standard of living will be decreased. You look at their unemployment over there in countries like Greece, also Spain and Italy and Portugal and Ireland. I mean, they're really suffering, and it's because they didn't get their act together soon enough. They didn't recognize that you can't continue to spend more than you take in and have more and more people dependent on government and have the system work. And I think that's where we are. And so for folks who are kind of on the fence, not sure which way they're going to go, there might be a particular issue they care about. Maybe it's a social issue, maybe it's a foreign policy issue. But ultimately, everybody cares about what's going to happen to their kids and their grandkids, and whether we're going to be able to pass along to them a better future as our parents and grandparents did for us. And I really believe that this is one of these elections that's going to matter for all of our families and for our state and for our country. I was up in Northwest Ohio yesterday and talked a little about the auto situation. And let me just be clear this morning with you all. During the debates, President Obama said a number of things that just were wrong. And one was with regard to the auto rescue. He said that Mitt Romney did not want to provide any sort of government help to the auto companies at a time, a few years ago when they were in tough shape. He also has gone around Ohio now saying that if Mitt Romney had been president instead of him, there would be no U.S. auto industry. Now, those are just flat-out false. And there are some fact checkers who do these independent fact checks. Sometimes they're pretty tough on us as Republicans. Sometimes they're tough on Democrats. They've looked at what President Obama said in the debate, and they've said he's wrong. That Romney did talk about specifically providing federal guarantees for the loans a federal backup and guarantee to the warranties for our cars. He also did talk about a structured bankruptcy. Guess what? Barack Obama took the companies through a structured bankruptcy. And if you were to look at these ads, and therefore what a lot of people were thinking in Northwest Ohio near the Chrysler plant, or the GM foundry where I was yesterday in Defiance, or what folks were thinking in Northeast Ohio who are associated with the auto industry, they're thinking, boy, Barack Obama says that Mitt Romney wanted to take him through bankruptcy, so Barack Obama must not have done that. Well, that's what he did. And yeah, he provided government guarantees and backups. Well, that's what Mitt Romney proposed. Now, I believe that there were some problems with the way Barack Obama did it because there were a lot of winners and losers because the government got heavily involved in it. But the point I hope you will make to people as you talk to them is that what Barack Obama is saying is not true. He's not telling the truth because he doesn't want to talk about what is ultimately really important to people, his record, and what he wants to do over the next 4 years. So instead he's throwing out this stuff that's inaccurate to try to distract folks and, frankly, to paint an inaccurate picture of where Mitt Romney was. I will also tell you this, and this is something I hope is pretty obvious to people. If you're associated with the auto industry in any way, shape, or form, and we all are in Ohio in some way, you should look at Mitt Romney's record, you should look at Mitt Romney's experience, and you should look at what Mitt Romney wants to do for the next 4 years for the auto industry, for the workers, for the communities that are dependent on it. What do they need? Regulatory relief. Yes. They need to be competitive globally. And all of them say that. The auto industry, the unions, and so on, they're tired of the federal government putting more and more mandates and more costs and burdens and regulations on the auto companies because that makes them not able to compete globally. Well, what does Mitt Romney want to do? Provide regulatory relief. We have common sense regulations that make sense for the auto industry and for other manufacturers in Ohio. That's going to help them. Healthcare costs. It's killing the auto companies. They'll tell you that. What does Mitt Romney want to do? He wants to be sure we get healthcare costs down rather than Obamacare, which get healthcare costs up. Trade. Who is it who's talking about being tougher with China and being sure that everybody plays by the same rules? It's Mitt Romney. The auto companies care a lot about that, as do the workers. Energy. It's Mitt Romney who's saying, let's use our oil, our natural gas, our coal. Let's get these costs down to attract more manufacturers to America because lower energy costs is going to result in a renaissance of manufacturing here in Ohio. Who benefits the most from that? Manufacturers, the auto companies. Who benefits from lower gas prices at the pump? The auto companies, because they're going to sell more cars when the price of gas is lower. So you think about it, really, on all these issues. Taxes is another one. Mitt Romney's got a plan to change the corporate tax code, to reform it, to make the auto companies competitive. Right now they're paying the highest corporate tax rate of any country in the world that's a developed country. The United States of America is. Canada's up there is from 16.5% to 15%. Ours, 35%. Barack Obama has no strategy, no plan to be able to deal with those healthcare costs, the energy costs, what's going on in terms of our tax policy, our trade policy. And Mitt Romney's got the plan. So as you're talking to people about the auto industry, I hope you'll make that point, that not only is what President Obama is saying wrong, it's false, he's not telling the truth, but if you're concerned about the auto industry and you're concerned about manufacturing in Ohio and in America, well, you better vote for Mitt Romney. You agree with me?
Yeah.
Again, thanks for what you've already done and will do. 11 days. I believe we're going to win this thing, again, because of the folks in this room. We can each make a difference. It's going to be a close election, and therefore what you're doing makes a huge difference. And I hope that we all have a great celebration on November 6th. But I'll tell you what, on November 7th, we're going to go to work, aren't we? Yep. We're going to be sure that we get this country back on track. We make the tough decisions. We face up to our challenges. This is an election about big issues and some big choices. And we need a guy in Mitt Romney who understands that Washington is broken. It requires big changes. He's going to do it with Paul Ryan at his side. And I look forward to being in the Senate and being part of it. I got to mention, if I could, two other candidates who I know you're going to help. One is Bob Gibbs. I just talked to Bob on the phone driving in, and he now is going to represent his new district, a significant part of Lorraine County. I think a little bit of Avon Lake, in fact. Not all of it, he said.
Not Avon.
Okay. But helping Bob Gibbs would be great. This is a new district for him, so he's not as well known up here. Thank you for reaching out and working with his people and helping him. And the other is Josh Mandel. Now, I believe Josh Mandel's election is Harry Reid's worst nightmare. Because with Josh Mandel getting elected, I think we can take the majority in the United States Senate, which would make a huge difference. If Mitt Romney wins and we get a majority in the United States Senate, then we can really begin to change America. Get back to, again, what's made our country great, what's made our economy strong. So, if you haven't spent any time with Josh yet, I hope you will. He's an incredible candidate. He's a veteran, 2 tours of duty in Iraq. He's also our state treasurer, who helped us to get our bond rating actually improved here in Ohio at a time that the federal bond rating went the other way. He used to get elected up here, as you know, in Northeast Ohio with a huge vote in what was a slightly Democrat district. So Josh is, I think, going to be a terrific asset in the United States Senate for Ohio, and I hope you will help him every way you can. Thank you all very much for what you're doing.